The 100 and The Expanse prove that the best science fiction shows can thrive as much in human conflict as in cosmic spectacle. While their textures differ, both thrive on power struggles that double as survival tactics, and both treat leadership as a burden no one walks away from clean. However, the comparison only works if you stop expecting the 100 across all 7 seasons to care about the same rules as The Expanse. The 100's world moves by instinct more than calculation, bending plausibility to serve tension. That looseness is a liability if you're chasing realism, yet it frees the show to go places The Expanse would never risk. In practice, the overlap is about cadence, how shifting alliances can be as thrilling as any space battle, and how trust is always in shorter supply than resources. The 100 is a sci-fi show you don't need to be a genius to understand if you can suspend your disbelief. The 100 is a great Expanse replacement for great characters and political intrigue. Clark confronts Murphy in The 100 Season 1. What makes The 100 a great Expanse show replacement is its similar link to the people steering the ship, literal or otherwise. Both build arcs that refuse to freeze characters in their introductions. Leaders fracture under pressure, and moral codes mutate in the shadow of extinction. Clark Griffin's evolution from reluctant survivor to political fulcrum mirrors Holden's slow acceptance of influence. Neither arc plays as transformation for its own sake. Rather, the shift is always transactional, bought at the expense of someone else's safety or trust. These changes hold because the shows let choices linger, reshaping alliances episode by episode. The ensemble structure does heavy lifting. In both the 100 cast and The Expanse, secondary characters rarely stay secondary for long. Bellamy Blake's pragmatic swings in loyalty, like Amos Burton's brutal pragmatism, test the limits of cooperation. The narratives treat them as necessary destabilizers. Politics in these worlds isn't static governance. It's bartering in a moral vacuum, where survival erodes principle. That's where the tension sharpens. Whether orbiting factions in The Expanse or fighting for control of a radiation-soaked valley in the 100, characters live in a constant state of negotiation, often with people they'd rather see dead. This consistency in political momentum is why the 100 can scratch the same itch. You don't need a meticulously charted solar system to feel the gravity of power-shifting hands. There's one huge difference between The Expanse and the 100. Holden and Nagota in The Expanse Season 2. The gap appears the moment you start measuring believability. The Expanse is a hard sci-fi show, grounding its spectacle in research and technical restraint. Travel times stretch plausibly, weapons obey physics, and space is hostile in ways you can't argue away. That realism builds credibility where every action feels weighted with cost. The 100 doesn't chase that. Like Lost, the 100 leaves questions unanswered. Its science fiction scaffolding is a means to an end, not a boundary. Space exists mainly as a prologue, and by Season 2, the action rarely returns there. Technologies appear or vanish with little explanation, and radiation behaves like a narrative seasoning. It's sometimes lethal, yet sometimes ignorable. Nor is this looseness accidental. It reflects a show that's ultimately more interested in ethical collapse than in engineering accuracy. The 100 science provides just enough framework to make the plot and setting plausible. Still, the real stakes are emotional within its characters, exploring who people become when every decision risks dismantling what's left of their humanity. This elasticity shifts the 100's focal point. In The Expanse, you believe every plotted trajectory because it's mapped. In the 100, you overlook plot holes because the story demands them. It's not that the series ignores its premise entirely, but plausibility is always the first chip on the bargaining table, and the 100 asks its audience to suspend their disbelief. For viewers expecting rigor, that looseness can be a deal-breaker. But if you enter knowing the 100 treats its sci-fi as atmosphere rather than architecture, the disconnect matters less. The rewards, then, are narrative momentum and heartbreaking losses in the 100, aka the ability to bend rules for character payoffs without re-engineering the world to justify them. It's a trade-off, and one the 100 makes unapologetically. The Expanse and the 100 are both great sci-fi series in their own right. Clark and Lex are looking up at something in the 100. Neither of these sci-fi shows is perfect, but framing them as rivals misses the point. Each answers a different question about how science fiction should operate. The Expanse asks how far you can stretch realism before the story buckles. The 100 asks how far you can stretch people before they do. That divergence explains their different staying powers. The Expanse's ending, while not complete, finishes with a coherent arc that never abandons its initial promise. The 100 evolves by molting, shedding settings, alliances, and even genres when it needs to survive. That flexibility makes the 100's plot twists unpredictable in ways the Expanse rarely aims for. It can pivot from political thriller to post-apocalyptic survival horror within a season, sometimes within a handful of episodes. While this risks tonal whiplash, it also keeps the stakes fluid. Any environment, any set of rules, can become the next crucible. Both, however, share a refusal to give easy wins. Peace is always provisional, cost is always personal. A victory in either show is less about beating the odds than enduring what the odds take from you. That tonal overlap is why fans can cross over so easily, even if the textures differ.